What if somebody feels extremely angry and they want to feel their feelings? What is a healthy way for them to do that?
Three things.
Hmm.
Okay. So if you want to learn how to control your emotions, you want to be tranquil in the face of your emotions, is what I would say. Three things you can do. The first thing is um, putting words to your emotion. So the moment that, so right now, I don't know if this kind of makes sense. The more angry you are, right, the more your amygdala is like hyperactive. It is drowning out every other part of your brain. So the first thing that you have to do is put words to it. And when you put words to it, you can't put words to ah. There's no word there. So the moment that you try to put words to it, it has to calm down. In order for your linguistic centers, Broca's area, and all these, in order for them to like articulate it, you have to understand it. So Freud understood this like over 100 years ago. And there's something powerful about processing emotions by putting them into words. In order to put words to it, we have to tone it down some. So that's the first thing. The problem is that people oftentimes think that that is sufficient, right? So people will say journal, go see a therapist and talk about your feelings. Man, the number of times that I've had, like I had this patient who came in, if I can tell a story,
Please.
and so like I was a third-year resident. I'd done maybe like 100 hours, 200 hours of psychotherapy. So I had a guy come in. He'd been in the clinic for 8 years, had depression, was a dude in his 40s. He came in and he would tell me about why he was sad every day. Like every week he'd come in, is like, I got written up at work. People are complaining because I snapped at them. One of the patients is complaining because I didn't give them benzos. And so he'd come in every week. He'd talk about why he was depressed. I'd be like, why are you depressed, bro? And he'd like tell me some story about something bad that happened in his life. And then we did this for 6 months. And like, I didn't know, because I'm like learning psychotherapy, right? So I'm like, I'm supposed to be supportive and I'm supposed to be like, okay, like that must be hard for you. How does that make you feel? That must be so hard for you. How does that make you feel? That must be so hard for you. We do this dance for like 6 months. And then one day he comes in and I'm kind of getting frustrated. And I'm like, hey, is this helping? And he's like, what do you mean, is it helping? I'm like, is it helping? Do you feel any better than when you came in 6 months ago? And he's like, I thought this is what we're supposed to do. I'm just supposed to come in every week. I tell you about how I'm sad. And then you tell me it must be like, isn't that what psychotherapy is? And it was a huge light bulb moment for me, because talking about your feelings, especially for men, is not enough much of the time. Fascinating neuroscience and endocrinology behind that. Putting words to it is just step one. Second thing, this is a really important skill, cultivating additional emotions. So if you look at people who are resilient, if you tunnel down into the internal dialogue of people who are resilient, you'll notice that they do something else, some interesting things. So my patients who are very severely ill, right, and literally what I try to do with them over the course of weeks is, this thing happened and I feel overwhelming shame. The moment that you start cultivating additional emotion. So I've been dumped by my boyfriend or my girlfriend. I'm really, really depressed. I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. They start to catastrophize. They have a lot of negative emotion. And it's really easy in that moment to forget that, okay, I had 3 years of wonderful experiences with this person before things went downhill. It's really easy to forget all of the positives. It's really easy to realize that 3 years of experience followed by, let's say, 1 year of a toxic relationship is going to actually protect you from the next toxic relationship. So cultivating additional emotions is a huge fundamental part of EQ. And you don't just have to tolerate it or suppress it. These are the additional things that you can do. And this is really important. It's not just cultivating positive emotions when you're feeling negative emotions. It's the other way around as well. I've seen more relationships ruined by falling in love than anything else. And you just fall in love with the wrong person. You're in a relationship and you fall in love with somebody else. So many people I've worked with, I have this great business idea and I get so excited about it and like, I'm going to start this AI company. That's the time that you actually want to cultivate negative emotion. Cultivate a little bit of anxiety. What could go wrong? Make sure you ask yourself that question. Like literally in addiction psychiatry, we have a cool technique that we use with people where it doesn't really work so much anymore, but we tell people to play the tape through to the end. You're really excited right now and you want to do this thing, but play the tape through to the end. What are all of the negative things that could happen? So that cognitive flexibility, that emotional flexibility is really important. We have to understand what emotions are. So a lot of times, this is going around on the internet where like, feel your feelings, right? Like, I'm going to be authentic with my feelings today, which means that you're an asshole, Andrew, and this is my truth, right? So we've started like speaking our truths as excuses to being assholes. Like, that's what's happening on the internet. It's what's happening in real relationships, because people are watching social media and they're like, I should speak my truth, right? So the other thing that's really important is to understand that an emotion is not a behavior. An emotion is literally, from an evolutionary perspective, and you may know this better than I do, is information and is motivation. That's what emotions are for. So when you feel fear, when you're walking outside, walk into the outhouse in the middle of the night, and you feel fear, that is all this sensory input is being processed in parts of your brain that you have no conscious awareness of. The first thing that happens is that you feel emotion before you have any logical idea of what are you even scared of. That is your brain telling you something. The other thing is it's motivation, right? I feel like running away. And this is where, unfortunately, our brain evolved for a world that we don't live in anymore. So, back when I used to feel fear because I was being hunted by a tiger, the natural impulses that our fear encourage us to do don't work when you've got to pay rent at the end of the month, or you've got to pay your mortgage, or you've got to do well on your performance review. So oftentimes what we do is we think that feeling authentically means letting our emotion run the show. We don't want to do that. We want to ask ourselves, what is this emotion telling me? Why do I feel fear? What am I afraid of? And I don't even think what am I afraid of is the right question. It's way too like self-help.
Mhm.
It's way too psychotherapy for me. It's, what is my fear telling me?
What is the information and motivation that it's signaling?
Yeah, and then what is it telling me to do?
Like
right?
your client who was feeling very anxious all the time, by exploring that emotion, eventually it sounds like came to the understanding that it wasn't the job for him.
Perfect, right? That this is not the and so he's trying so hard, right? So the anxiety is like clinging on to his job, but actually once you understand the emotion, it's actually walking away. And so once you have mastery over your emotions in this way, and I think mastery is maybe a better word, it makes life like so much better, right? That's when we talk about distress tolerance, like that's what I'm talking about. It's not just suppression.
Wonderful. I so appreciate your answer, the thoroughness of it, the clarity of it. Distress tolerance is putting words to emotion, adding additional language to it, and exploring the reverse context, as well, the negative aspects of positive emotions,
Yeah,
the positive
absolutely.
aspects. So it sounds like it's broadening the time domain, like thinking about this and going forward. What does this represent in the past, present, and future? And then really thinking about what the emotion is signaling. What a beautiful description of distress tolerance, because it's also operational. People can put this to work. Thank you. That's fantastic.